If for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Elayne. I'm with Imperium Title. I also have Perez Law. I do a lot of real estate, primarily real estate and debt issues. I actually launched my law firm right in the prior marketing crash that we had, because I was working for a builder who went Chapter 11, and I said, okay, well, I'm a real estate attorney. What do I do? So nobody was hiring real estate. Remember what that state of affairs was if you were back working around that time. And so I said, well, I see a need with foreclosure. So I essentially went out, taught myself foreclosure defense, and with that came everything that comes with foreclosures. You know, a lot of short sales. We did so many short sales then. And so we've been in it from the beginning, when servicers had to even figure out how to do a short sale. A lot of, in the beginning, it took anybody who did this, you remember, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have processes. And so we had to wait for them to figure out that curve. And then it became very streamlined and easier. And I still do short sales today. There's still short sales going on. Obviously not as many, but the rules always change, because now when our economy came back, what we're seeing in the beginning with banks not wanting to approve short sales, we see more of that today because they want to get the most out of the property. So let's talk about what's going on now, because I think that there is going to be a higher number of short sales. We're going to see a little bit of rise in short sales because of this. But I want to say my prediction, and I'm not an economist, I'm only an attorney who does this kind of stuff. But there are just some differences that I see in the collapse that we had back in 2008 than the economy's deterioration that we're seeing today, right? If you recall, back in 2008, the housing crisis is more had a bigger role in the collapse of the economy. It almost led the decline, remember? Because right before that, housing prices were going just crazy, and you'd buy a house and in 2 months you made $50,000 in equity. And so the lenders were doing not so ethical things of just giving anybody a loan, and they were selling these things on the secondary market. That's what led to our collapse back in 2008. That's why it was so grave. That's not what's going on today. What's going on today is a decline in our market because of COVID. And due to COVID, people have stopped working, people are scared, and things like that. But already here in Florida, we're opening back up. Through the title company, I really haven't seen a decline in closings, except that a lot of realtors weren't out selling. A lot of people didn't want to sell their homes. They didn't want people in their homes at the time. So we're seeing a little bit of we're feeling it now almost when we're about to open, that our closings have fallen, or our numbers of closings have fallen because of that. But now that we're opening, I think things are going to pick up again. I have some of my own clients who are in short sales who didn't want people coming through the house, but now they're feeling more comfortable and they're opening their houses again. So I think that the difference is it's not the housing prices that are going crazy. Housing prices really have not fallen that much. I think Fannie Mae believes it's going to be a 15% decline, but we're already counteracting that. How? By the mortgage price, the interest rates are so low, so it's allowing more people to buy. So because of that counterbalance, I don't think we're going to see the effect like we were. I think what is going to hurt homeowners is these forbearances that are being allowed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar about these forbearances, but because of COVID, they are allowing people forbearances where they don't have to pay their mortgage at all. they're allowing these for up to a year. The servicers are approving them in about 3-month increments. So if you've been approved, most people have been approved for 3 months. So we shut down in March. That started with the April payment. So in July, that's when the first forbearance will be over. But I don't think that many people aren't going to start paying in July, right? Because we're just reopening. If people have been affected, they're still catching up. So a lot of people are going to take those second forbearances. So now you're 6 months. Some are going to take it till 9, and some are going to take it till 12. So a lot of this we're not going to feel for a full year when these forbearances end. And the reason that I believe that these are going to cause people to go into foreclosure and possibly need short sales is because if you read through the forbearances, there is no clear way out after these forbearances. So it's great that I don't have to pay my mortgage for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. But if you tell me I have to come back and now I owe you 9 months of mortgage payments, which is how some of these are set up, or I have to pay double mortgage now for 3 months or 6 months, people are not going to be able to do it. And there are some people also that are going to take advantage of this where they could pay, but if they get a forbearance, they're not going to. And once people get 6, 9 months, a year behind, they're going to have no choice but to either do a modification or sell the home. As long as people have enough cushion now, though, so as long as they weren't in too much trouble before, they didn't have modifications before, that we really see that the balances on these mortgages are the value of the home. That's where we're going to see a lot of short sales. So what I think is there's going to be an increase. It's not going to be like the last time, but there will be some there. So if there are some short sales for you to take advantage of, how do you keep that? How do you, what skills do you need to be able to get those deals? With short sales, there's a couple of things that you want to arm yourself with. Not every short sale is good as another short sale, right? So I want to talk about, let me first ask if anybody has questions about the previous, because I kind of want to move into kind of how to arm yourself and educate yourself if you're going to either market for short sales, or even if you're not going to market for them, but you are going to stumble across them. How do you tell the difference between a good short sale and a not so good one? So any questions about what I already covered? Any insight that anybody else has? No, okay. So how do you, with short sales, there's a lot of competition, right? Because you're not just competing against other realtors. You're competing against attorneys who want to help distressed homeowners. These foreclosure rescue companies who want to offer them the world. You're competing with investors who just want to buy the house for less, you know, for no money on the dollar and not even use a realtor. So there's a lot of competition out there. In regard to competition with realtors, how do you arm yourself? With knowledge, okay? And what that means is when there are pools of knowledge through the public records which are available to you. We all know, I believe, property appraiser, right? And so you can go on property appraiser, make sure who owns the house, and things like that. But you don't know, a lot of realtors don't know how to search a court website, right? So if there's a foreclosure there is so much information at your fingertips in the foreclosure docket. And you can learn which documents to open to give you the information that you want. A couple of things to look out with short sales. If you're going to do a short sale, you're going to have to get a negotiator who knows how to negotiate not only just the mortgage lien holder, but there could be other lien holders, right? So if you have a short sale and there's a first mortgage company and there's no HOA, to speak of, that's a much easier short sale than if there's a first mortgage, a second mortgage, an HOA they're behind on, they have an IRS lien because they haven't been paying their taxes, and maybe there's some liens from Capital One or something because they were so far behind they got sued and things like that. Why does it show that everybody's microphone is off?
Because it is.
Okay.
Well, they can unmute themselves, but when they come into the chat.
Okay, so they can ask questions if they want. Okay.
Yeah.
People are still coming in, so just bear with me. So if you go on, every clerk of court has a docket, and in Florida, everything is public records. So you can actually, if you're going to get a short sale, you go on Property Appraiser, you get the person's name, and you can go on the clerk of court, and you can actually pull open their foreclosure case, okay? And there's two key documents that I'm going to kind of tell you you can look at for great pieces of information. And the first one is the foreclosure complaint. Don't let a complaint intimidate you. Sometimes you pull it and it's 52 pages. You don't need them all. Right in the foreclosure complaint, the first thing you want to look at is how many defendants there are. When a bank forecloses on a house, they have to foreclose on all lien holders, okay? So if there is a second mortgage and Capital One and the IRS, every single one of them are going to be named as defendants. So you can open a foreclosure docket and you can look at the top of the complaint where it lists the plaintiff and the defendant. And if it says Bank of America versus your homeowner, that's going to be a much easier short sale typically. But if you open it and it's Bank of America versus your homeowner and Capital One and the IRS and another bank, let's say another Bank of America or a Chase or something like that, you right there know that there's more than one lien that's going to have to be negotiated if this is a short sale. And if there's a number of liens, sometimes it's going to make your short sale very difficult to impossible. Okay, so let's talk about liens. Which ones, let's say you opened one and there's 10 liens. Which liens do you need to be scared of? Okay, do not necessarily be scared of a second mortgage. Within the short sale industry, second mortgages are not predominantly very difficult to deal with. The first mortgage company will give them something and it's usually enough. Okay, so don't be scared of second mortgages. Believe it or not, don't be scared of IRS liens. Okay, IRS liens are some of the easiest to remove. As long as we show the IRS that there's no money to get because it's a short sale, we can get them to release that lien with zero payout. What if it's Capital One? There's 3 Capital One lawsuits, credit card lawsuits, things like that. If this is a homestead property, the person selling it lives there, ignore them, it doesn't matter. If it's an investment property, they don't live there, those become a bigger deal. So you may want to pull the judgments, which you can in official records, and look at how much those judgments are for. If it's a $2,000 to $3,000 judgment, no big deal. If it's $20,000, $40,000 judgment, which we have seen, that's a much bigger deal because they're not going to want to release without big payouts, and there's only so much money to go around. So IRS liens, no problem. Creditor liens, Capital Ones, no problem as long as it's a homestead. And second mortgages are not typically a problem. The thing to be scared of is HOAs. When you're doing a short sale, if they have an HOA, you need to find out, you need to ask your seller whether or not they have paid the HOA. HOAs are the hardest to gauge because unlike a second mortgage where we know they usually take about $6,000 or a percentage, HOAs don't take a percentage. HOAs can be extremely aggressive and they can ruin your deal. okay? And HOAs also, you can look that there was a notice of lien. You can look in public records to determine whether or not they've started litigation with the homeowner, and that claim of lien can say $2,000, and it can be 6 months later, and you don't know that that debt is now $15,000. Nothing can rise as fast as an HOA debt. So you want to be very careful that you know how much debt there is for an HOA. They can get to 15 or 24,000, and I've seen it time and time again ruin a short sale. So be wary of HOAs. Get your sellers to get payoffs from them, even in the beginning when you're thinking about doing the short sale, because the short sales are a whole lot of work. They take a long time. The negotiation time is long, and what's worse than you did all of this work when you could have made a determination in the beginning that maybe this isn't the one you wanted to spend your time on.
Sorry, we're trying to fix the video. I mean, it shows that it's on, but I don't know why it's not showing.
Is no one seeing me?
No, you're gone. It's just, it's you cannot see the video.
I don't know why it's doing that. What about
Okay, now we can just see like a picture. But we can hear you better. Before it was getting cut off, but we can hear you better.
Okay.
Well, as long as you can hear it, that's what really matters.
So I don't know if maybe people didn't hear me, but I was kind of going through what liens to be concerned about in a short sale and what liens don't let them scare you. And then also, if you're going to do short sales, you want to make sure you have a good short sale negotiator. They have to know the rules of the banks and things like that. Not just anyone. A good short sale negotiator will get a short sale done, and they'll get it done quicker because they understand how it works. I know that a lot of times realtors were doing their own negotiations. If you want to do that, you certainly can do that to save the cost of a negotiator. And you know, you could always give us a call, and we can at least walk you through real quickly what you have to do. The other thing I want to remind people there are cooperative or collaborative short sales. You don't have to wait till you find a buyer sometimes to start negotiating your short sale. Fannie Mae has a collaborative short sale portal. There's some lenders or servicers that actually do collaborative short sales. What's a collaborative short sale? That's a short sale in which you can submit documents in the beginning, and you can get the lender to tell you what they want you to list the house for. That is so useful with short sales and getting them done and getting them done quickly. So before you go out there or while you're marketing it to buyers, get started on a collaborative short sale, get that submitted, because the bank or Fannie Mae is going to go out, they're going to get their appraisal, and they're going to say, okay, list it at 200,000 or whatever it's going to be. Even if you think it's high, list it, okay? And then just start taking it down every 15 days or 30 days. You're the realtor, you would know that better than me. But start taking it down, because then when you do finally get someone to make an offer, Fannie Mae or the short sale lender is going to see that's the price you wanted, but it wasn't getting any hits. It had to get this far. And it's going to make your short sale, when you do get a buyer, much, much quicker. You're not starting from the beginning. Questions?
So Elayne, after you're done, I'm gonna go over with them, because I see a lot of the agents here. I don't think they've done short sales or dealt with foreclosures. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But I'm gonna go over with them what they would need if they do have a seller that needs to sell and it's in one of these situations, what paperwork they need for our files. And also we can go over if they have a buyer buying a short sale as well. So I'm gonna wait for Elayne to finish, and then we'll go over that briefly, okay guys?
Well, Mary just reminded me, and I just forgot. You raised a good point, Mary.
It's been cut off.
Pardon?
Elayne is getting cut off. Can you hear me?
Here, what's the internet that you use?
Chrome.
No,
But
I'm
we
saying
can-
You could hear every other word like it's getting cut off.
oh, I didn't know that this was here.
Okay, Mary, I'm gonna try to plug my laptop in. So while I'm doing that, do you want to go over the items you wanted to mention?
Yes, that'll be great. All right, so guys, until Elayne kind of goes into her tech and resolve it, I'm gonna go over some of the questions I get asked about, you know, foreclosure, short sale. Mary, what documents do we need? So number one, if it's in foreclosure, like Elayne said, you check the same way you do a listing right now. You check the public record, verify the client's name, go into the clerk of courts, verify how advanced the foreclosure process is. Just because a property is in foreclosure doesn't mean it foreclosed. It depends how close it is to foreclose. Once it forecloses, it's the bank's property. Okay, so now if the bank wants to sell it and you happen to be the listing agent, the bank is the seller. While it's in foreclosure, okay, we just have to check how advanced it is. And we would go into then a short sale if it's still time to do it, okay? And Elayne went over some of those procedures, what the levels may be. Once it has a sale date, we're kind of too late. When there's a short sale, keep something in mind. The foreclosure process does not stop. And Elayne can verify that. So now you have a listing, it's in the foreclosure process, you still have time to sell it. So what do you need in terms of a listing paperwork? You still need the same listing documents we write out for regular sale, but it's called a short sale to listing, I think it is, the disclosure. So it's where the seller would sign, confirm. Once you have an offer, make sure there is a short sale addendum added to the buyer's contract, the sales contract. There's a second disclosure where buyer and seller agree that this is part of a short sale, which means a third party has to approve the contract. Now, another question that I get is, in a short sale, specifically in a short sale, does the bank need to sign the contract? No. The bank is involved because they need to approve the short sale in order for the seller to sell for a lower price and for the bank to accept the value of the contract, which is lower than what the seller owes the bank. That's their. It's almost like, you know how you get a buyer approved for the loan when they're purchasing? For a seller, they have to prove that they cannot afford the loan and that the property is not worth what they owe the bank. Correct, Elayne? So it's almost like a reverse. Another challenge that you may find with some of these sellers, because they are so upset, they're going through hardship, many of them don't like to cooperate. So with the third party, the bank who has to approve the short sale for them, they will be asking for financials and other documentations to verify that they can no longer qualify to pay for the loan. And many times sellers they're not very responsive. So make sure that you work with the sellers, that they understand that this is something that you need their cooperation, because that can take a transaction from a couple of months to not even happening, and you struggling to get this thing done because the seller, not the buyer, the seller's not cooperating. Elayne, I think I'm good. Anybody has any questions? Huh? Okay. So Elayne, you're good? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. So I just wanted to touch on something that Mary said about the sale date. So sometimes even if a sale date is set, that is exactly what I find in my business, that people need deadlines sometimes, and everybody wants to live in their, not everybody, but there are a lot of people who want to continue to live there and they're not paying, and so their mind shifts. So sometimes I wouldn't say to be scared of sale dates. we move sale dates so often, sometimes I just get it, as long as it's 30 to 45 days before, the sale
Elayne
date.
is still getting cut off.
Okay, you guys can't hear me?
Yes, getting cut off. Is everybody getting that too? Is cut off? Yeah.
I don't know why they.
Okay, I found at least. I'm trying to hook to a different network real quick. Okay. Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me connect to my network. I don't know why. Because I don't know. I think it waits for until you're doing things like this for your network to decide it doesn't want to play. Can anybody? How is it now? Are you guys hearing me?
To know what are the most important question that we need, things that Elayne or the lawyer needs to know, that is, just information from the seller that we don't get in the public.
That's a good one. Elayne might be able to answer that a little better, but I can tell you from our past experiences back in the day when this was really common, I found that obtaining the information, like Elayne said, the first two things you need to check is going to be public record, and then go to the clerk of courts. Many sellers, not all sellers, many sellers, they're not very reliable in the information they give you, because they may not even understand where they're at, and sometimes they wait until last minute and they don't tell you. So how you're going to find out, because you'll go into the public records, verify their name, go to the clerk of courts. That's where you're going to see how advanced your foreclosure is. But Elayne might be able to give you some information on what questions to ask in order to help you. So I don't know, Elayne, can you hear us?
I can now. What was the question?
Okay, go ahead. Ask again, Kenya.
Okay. I wanted to know what are the most important questions that we need to ask the sellers in our short sale listing appointment. Those questions or those things that we cannot find in the public records.
My opinion would be kind of what I touched on when I was speaking. It would be the liens, and especially if there's an HOA involved, how much they owe on the HOA. Because public records is going to give you the other liens, that are out there. Because when a bank forecloses, they have to list all the lien holders. The only exception to that is if the foreclosure is not an original, it is not the first mortgage holder, it's a second mortgage holder, that changes. So perhaps make sure that the lender foreclosing is the first mortgage holder. As long as it's the first mortgage holder, you can rely on public records to tell you where that lien is. What the homeowner needs to do is essentially let you know about the HOA. That's the biggest hang up that I see in short sales. It's the HOA, unfortunately. And just in regard to listing paperwork, obviously Mary is the best person to answer this, but from what we see, what a lot of realtors do in regard to closing date. Let's talk about closing date, because if you get a buyer, let's say you're listing it and you get a buyer who doesn't understand short sales, or let's say you're representing a buyer who doesn't understand short sales, they have to be ready to wait. It's not going to be 30 to 45 days like in a regular sale. It just isn't. There are things that you can do to speed that up, like the collaborative short sales that I was speaking of. But if it's not a collaborative and the negotiation is not even going to start until you get that contract, that buyer has to know that it can take 60, sometimes 90 days, sometimes longer, that they have to stay in the deal before you're going to get a response. So what you need to do in regard to the paperwork, a lot of times, what I've seen that has worked very well is instead of putting the closing date as 60 days out or 90 days out or 45 days out and then continue to move it, what I've seen is in the short sale addendum, so the closing date, it'll say C addendum, it's G or K or something. You guys know that better than me. But it tells you to see the addendum, and it's the short sale addendum, and they make the closing date 45 days or 30 days after short sale approval. This way you're not kind of going back and forth. You can put a drop dead date there, obviously, so that your buyer doesn't stay in forever, but you want to make it center it around short sale approval. So it's not just a 30 to 45, because you're going to find yourself that you're at the mercy of the other party to keep extensions going if you pick a date. Any other questions? Oh, and in regard to sale dates, what I was saying before when my network was crashing was that just because somebody has a sale date doesn't mean you can't get a short sale done, especially if the sale date is 30 to 45 days away, okay? There are things, an attorney, we do it all the time where we can get it pushed, and a lot of times if you have a good offer in there, the bank will push it themselves. We see it all the time that there's nothing we even have to do, because the lenders, being able to do something in short sale, if they have a good price, is actually more cost effective to them than taking back the property, holding it, fixing it, and selling it. So don't be that scared of sale dates. If it's 10 days, yes. But if you got some time before that, 30 to 45 days, don't be that scared. You just have to get an offer quick.
So Elayne,
I have another question. I'm sorry, I'm asking. What happens when you go into an appointment and you don't have a foreclosure, in the clerk of court, but the seller tell you I have 4 months behind?
Okay. So that if there's no foreclosure, then yes, you have to ask the questions you want to ask is, okay, you're 4 months behind. Obviously you're going to ask how much they owe on it, because you're going to do the valuation, right? So you want to see if it's a short sale. And if it becomes a short sale because they show you their mortgage statement and it's more, then at that point you want to ask the questions that in regard to the liens, that what I was telling you to get from public records, you want to ask them, how many mortgages do you have? Do you have an HOA? Are you on time with it? I would encourage my sellers, if you can, to continue paying that HOA, because again, that's what's going to hold up a lot of short sales. And if they are behind on the HOA, how far behind? Because if they tell you I've missed a payment, it's only once a year and it's $300, that's very different from, well, I actually haven't paid it in 2 years and it's $200 a month, because that $200 a month for 2 years is not going to be $5,000. You're looking at 10 to 15 once an attorney gets a hold of that. So you definitely want to be wary of that. And also, just like we have realtors who come to us all the time for to do the pre-HUDs, because sellers often want your pre-HUDs. Another thing that we can do is, if there's question and you don't know what's out there or how many things are out there, we can do title searches ahead of time if it's something that you think is complicated. Just so that you know what you're walking into.
Thank you. Thanks.
What were the liens filings to be weird?
Elayne, I know that some people are asking, since it was getting caught up before, some of the places that they should be searching. So you were talking about once they have a seller, they can go into public records, verify the name, and then go into the clerk of courts to see if any filings have been in process.
Yes, so I don't know if everybody's familiar with official records, but knowing title, I can actually do a cursory title search just from public records. Public records actually shows you every lien on the property. It's just, you have to analyze it, so it's not that easy. So I wouldn't start there. But if it is in foreclosure, there's a couple of documents that you can look at. The first is the complaint. The complaint, as I stated, is going to tell you who the lien holders are, and so that you can determine whether or not you need to be worried about them. And again, the one that I worry about is HOA. Don't worry too much about credit cards if it's their homestead, or the IRS, or second mortgages. But also from that, you can pull the complaint. Within the first 2 pages of the complaint, the lender will tell you how far behind they are and how much they owed when they fell behind. Right on the first 2 pages, they're going to give you that number, because I've had homeowners who have told me I'm 4 months behind and it's been 14. You know, and so especially once they stop paying, they stop getting statements. And so even if you say, well, give me a statement, they may say, I don't have one, or I did it online and now they've blocked me from going online. So on those, if you pull that complaint, it's going to show you how many defendants, that's going to show you the liens. And within the first 2 pages, just look for that number. It's going to say the homeowner has been in default. The last payment being received April 1st, 2018, with a principal balance of $191,000 or something. What that's telling you is that they haven't, if that was the date, April of 2018, they're over 2 years behind. And at the time they fell behind, they owed $191,000. So imagine how much they owe today. Okay, you're looking at $225 easy, if not more. The other thing, if you have one that has a sale date, if you get there, the final judgment is one of the last things that's going to be on your docket in clerk of court, and that's going to give you really good, concise numbers. That final judgment will tally everything they owe, all the attorney's fees, and it's going to be essentially spot on what you're looking for how much they owe on their house. Hopefully it doesn't get that far and you don't have a lot that have sale dates, because I know that that's stressful. But the beginning at least will pull the pulling of the complaint will give you a lot of information as well. And every county, it's whatever county clerk of court, search civil records. Okay, and just make sure you spell the homeowner's name exactly as it is in property appraiser, because that's what matches. When they foreclose, they have to match who's listed on the home as the owner for title purposes. So those will always match.
Elayne, I wanted to share with them, I don't know if they could see, I'm going to put it near my camera, but what the short sale addendum to the listing agreement kind of looks like. This is the form. And this form is on Form Simplicity and Transaction Desk. So when you're taking a listing, you would take the exclusive listing agreement, the same one, and then add this, okay? Read it when you have a chance, but it kind of explains to the seller their obligations and including submitting documents when the bank requested, things like that. But then once you have a buyer, then this second addendum has to be included between buyer and seller. And what this addendum does, you know how the contract has contingencies, like the inspection contingency? This kind of extends it to where those contingencies will start, once the short sale has been approved and the seller has given notification to the buyer. So when you have time, review this one, okay? This is for the purchase contract, and this is for the listing agreement. So that document is the only document that changes the transaction from a regular, normal transaction, whether it is as is or, you know, regular, or, and that's the only document that will change it. So please review these when you have time, get familiar with them, and this is what needs to be included with the paperwork, and that's what we're gonna look for when you submit your file as well. Any questions? No? Okay. Elayne, we can't hear you. You're in mute. Okay,
Can you
there.
hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying was, if anyone is interested, I can do a share screen and kind of walk you through the documents that I've been talking about and where to look, if anybody's interested in that. Okay, so I got some yeses. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. Okay, so this is Orange County records, and I'm just going to grab a foreclosure. That's not an HOA. Okay, so here's a Nation Star one. Can everybody see? If anybody can't see the screen, unmute yourself and let me know. So right here off the bat, it's a Nation Star mortgage, and we know that there is a homeowners association we need to ask about, and then it says United States of America. Don't confuse the IRS with United States of America. United States of America is just telling you it's an FHA loan. Absolutely no big deal. Because sometimes they have a partial claim, or sometimes assistance to purchase the home or something like that. So I'm just going to scroll down because this is not a brand new case, and I'm going to open the complaint. The complaint, always scroll. It's going to be one of the first things listed. Now it's 28 pages, but you don't have to go through those pages. Right here, it's the complaint. It's telling you all the defendants again, but you already saw that. And then if we go, I don't see any numbers on the first page. There we go, right here. So they owe $119,000 and plus interest from what? Look at this, September of 2006. This is a homeowner who hasn't paid on this mortgage since September of 2006. So if they don't owe double 119, I'd be surprised. And you're wondering, well, how did this happen that they're just getting sued? We see it all the time because things just get delayed for whatever reason, or they were servicemen and they couldn't do things and things like that. Let me go and grab just another example because I think I saw one in here. Okay, so look at this one. This one's intimidating. Bank of New York Mellon. This is a perfect one. So there's a home equity loan. That's going to tell me a lot of home equity loans are second mortgages. I want to make sure that there's no first mortgage I need to worry about. So I'm going to ask my homeowner how many mortgages you have. A home equity line is always a trigger that it could be a second mortgage rather than a first, okay? And then we see the homeowners on there, no big deal. And then we have a homeowners association. We have Central Florida Credit Union has a judgment. City Financial has a judgment. Florida Vascular has a judgment. Ford Motor has a judgment. There's a SunTrust Bank, which could be a judgment, or that could be another mortgage. Clerk of Court, and then right here, the Internal Revenue Service. So this is a perfect example of, I couldn't have found a better example. And this, you're going to see this 1% of the time. But right off the bat, that's when you need to do an analysis, and you would know if your homeowner lives there, don't worry about Central Florida or Citibank or the Florida Vascular or anything on there other than that HOA. Even the Internal Revenue Service, don't worry about it. Okay? You only are going to worry about things that are going to attach to the house, and if that's their home, the only thing that are going to attach to it are actual mortgages and the HOA. The IRS does attach, but the IRS historically will come off very easily if there's no money in it for them.
Elayne, if they owe like taxes, for example, property taxes, would that supersede all the other liens? What would the agents be looking for to say, oh no, this was going to be extremely challenging?
Okay, so for property taxes, obviously property taxes have to get paid, okay? And there's no negotiation with property taxes at all. They have to get paid, and they're going to get paid in full. So what we're going to see if there's property taxes is not really the Orange County tax collector. We're going to see people who have bought the taxes from them. And really there's some people here, right? There's this Judith Mott and Fabian Rodriguez. So these people may have judgments against them, or these people may have actually bought the tax liens. So these people have to get paid. So this is a little more complicated, but the same place that we went to, which was the original complaint. In the complaint, and this may be getting too technical, but I'm going to put it out there for anybody who is who likes reading, and just to let you know, but every single, after they list all these people, they have to say in the complaint why they're there, why they listed them. So I told you the first 2 pages is where you're going to find out how much they owe, right? But then towards the back, so let's go back and just for example purposes. Okay, so look at this one. Line number 10, defendant owes only $14,000. So I'm really suspicious of whether this is the first mortgage company or not. But if you go to the back, look at all the counts. The clerk of court, number 25, the clerk of court has a judgment, and it's recorded at 10/284/5693. So it'll tell you whether it's a judgment. If it was a tax as a result of a tax lien, it's not going to say a judgment. It's going to tell you those are they're holding the taxes. Also, there's quicker ways to know if it's taxes, because if it's taxes, you can go right onto the county's tax collector website, and it will show you on the bottom if there's any tax certificates. Now, so it's not taxes pretty much that's gonna mess up your deal. Okay, what's going to and let me tell you why. The lender knows taxes have to get paid. So unlike other lien holders or even the HOA that they only want to give $6,000 to the HOA when the HOA is owed $24,000, the lender already knows whether they pay them now or if they take it, they have to pay these taxes because they take priority. So we don't get pushback. We don't get a short sale approval with the lender saying, okay, I'll take it, but I'm not paying those taxes. They always will pay the taxes. So I'm not too worried about taxes. Yes. Other questions? There's got to be some. Everybody's just ready to go to
I see on the question, was it Martha? She said, can you send it to us again? I guess she means name the docs again, please. I don't know if that's to me though. It went to Martha? Can you confirm? It's on the chat. They're asking about banks. Can you send it to us? I guess they're asking me then for the short sale documents. Is that what it is? Is it Martha was the one that wrote the comments? Yes. Okay. I'll be sending it to you. The both short sale addendums, but they are on Form Simplicity and Transaction Desk. All you have to do is type in the library section, short sale, and they both come up. But I'll send it to you. Any other questions, guys?
I have a question.
I came in a little late on the presentation. Is this being recorded that I could see later on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be.
I had to look at my tech guy, yes.
Maria had a question?
Maria, did you have a question? She's not responding.
Maria, did you have a question? You're muted. You're muted. We can hear you. You will have to unmute.
Okay, I got it. So in doing the title search, I understand we can get some of the information from public records, but would we have to pay for a title search ourselves when we have a a short sale deal?
Okay, so you have to get with whoever you get your title searches from. Here at Imperium, we have an arrangement with our underwriter that if a deal doesn't close, we pay. So we are happy to give a title commitment. So anything that comes through Imperium, we don't care when we pull that title. So we're happy to do that ahead of time for you so that you can see in the more complicated case what you're looking at. But preliminarily, I mean, we do this every day. If you come to us and you say you have these concerns, I can do a precursory review of the docket and public records for you and maybe give you some relief or some peace to say, okay, this is what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one more question.
Yes.
Does it look like because of what's happening with COVID-19 that the economy is getting affected, that we're going to be seeing a lot more short sales? Might be something obvious, but just want to clarify with you.
Okay, so this is my personal opinion. I was kind of talking about this and I won't go into detail again. And anybody who wants the recording, just let us know and we'll get it to you. But this decline is not like the decline of 2008. So I don't see we're going to see anything to the level of 2008. So when you say increase short sales, I do think short sales are going to increase, not only because of the economic decline of the individuals in the homes, but because of the forbearances that are being allowed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA. Right now, the parameters of those don't really help the homeowner once the forbearance is over. So I think that's going to lead to more distressed properties. So yes, I do believe that we will see more short sales. But when I say more, I mean more than last year and the year before. I don't mean more to the level of 2008.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree with that too, Elayne. That's been our take on here as well. Things are still moving along. I have agents right now who have taken on new listings. They're getting multiple offer situations on there. But of course, there is a large group of buyers right now because they lost their job, because of the loss of income. They're not able to buy. However, we haven't seen it slow down, including with the lenders on their feedback. People who are qualifying to buy, they're looking for properties pretty quickly. But because of these forbearances, we don't know how this is going to affect long-term. So this is my personal opinion as well. I think if we're going to see something, if we're going to see the rise of like short sales coming up, I believe it will be maybe early next year we're going to see something, maybe mid next year. We're not going to see something next month. So you know, if you have somebody going through short sales, like Elayne was saying, right now she's still doing short sales. If you saw that particular example she gave us, they haven't made any payments since 2006. and now they're going through that. So those are the short sale that might be coming up. So don't panic if you meet a seller who is in a short sale situation. Once you look at those court documents, you're going to see how far they're behind. So again, that's my take about, you know, this right now, the situation and how we're going to be seeing the effects. So maybe by next year, you'll be seeing something if there is anything. Hope that helps. Any questions? Okay. So I'm going to, if you want Jeremy or Elayne, you can send me the recording. That way I'll send it to everyone here. I only see 2 people in here that I don't know who they are. I have one with Moto G7 Power. I don't know who that is. And also MM27929. So that way I can get their names and I can also email them a copy of this recording and the forms for the short sale that we discussed. So if they're able to send me their names by email, send it to empirenetworkrealty@gmail.com. That way I know who you are, but I'm not able to tell from here. So MM27929, and the other one is Moto G7 Power.
Okay. Thanks for everyone. We had great participation today, I think. I really appreciate it. And as always, if there's any other ideas for Zoom or issues to go over that you think we could be helpful with, just let Mary know and we'll set it up.
By the way, I don't know, Elayne, I know in the beginning when you introduced yourself, it was getting cut off a little bit, but I wanted the agents to know exactly what your background is, because if they do have right now or in the near future, sellers or even, you know, family members that are going through this situation or foreclosure or anything like that, tell them not to waste any time in sitting back to seek legal advice. And Elayne, that's her background. I've known Elayne now for, what, Elayne, 16 years or so, 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other that long. So when the market did crash back in 2008, 9, 10, all those years, we did work together. I was at another brokerage, and any agent that came to me with these issues, I have a client right now, I have a family member, I send them all to her so she could take care of them, including personal family members of mine. I was even going through some foreclosure issue because I was doing a modification to my loan, and it was actually going into foreclosure, and I didn't know about it. Elayne was the person to help me as well at that time. So many of us personally might be going through something, or maybe we have family or friends. Please let them know not to sit back and wait. They need to take action if they receive something from the bank, especially that they're not expecting it, and it has to do with foreclosure notice. Elayne's your girl.
Absolutely. Definitely. It's what we do essentially every day. And I can't reiterate enough when Mary said, don't let people sit on it. If it's yourself or a friend or a family member, don't let them sit on it. You have so many more options, easy options in the beginning.
Yeah, and guys, with this forbearance, a lot of people just think it's free mortgage payments, and that's it. That's not the case. Because when I was doing my modification, this was back in 2009, 10, I think it was. I didn't think I was going through foreclosure. I was doing a modification based on what my situation was, because I had a loss of income. I wasn't working, and this was presented to me in a different format. So when I got my first notice of foreclosure, who do you think I contacted? Elayne. I was like, Elayne, I don't know what's going on. What is happening? She went in, she checked right away, and man, I gotta tell you, I love her. She took care of it. So just be resourceful. We don't have to be the source. Just be resourceful in knowing where to send the client to, where to source them out to. And then that way, Elayne, she can even tell you, hey, this has to go into short sale. And you guys can then know you can list it. Okay?
I have a question, Mary.
Uh-huh.
Hi. So it is advisable to have someone always talk to an attorney when they're going through something like this?
You know what? My personal experience, because I just told you guys something personal of mine, yes, because I didn't understand what was going on. And us as realtors, we cannot provide legal advice, even if we know the answer. We don't want to be liable for something that requires an attorney advice and their review of these documents. So yes, I would just tell them you need to talk to an attorney. And even in referring Elayne, you can tell them, here are some recommended attorneys. You reach out to them, you let them know. If you want to give Elayne the heads up that they're going to be calling her, great, but they have to reach out to the attorney. Don't do it yourself, especially from the broker here. I don't want you to be liable because we many times put our hearts into helping our clients and we get too deep into helping them.
Yeah.
Okay? So
Just
yes, my personal advice, yes, attorney.
I'm going to go ahead and just put my number, the law firm and Imperium number, just so that people have it. But please remember, through the law firm, we do free consultations. We do them over the phone. We are not hard sell. I sleep at night. I don't put everybody in a product I sell. There's plenty of people that I speak to and I give them an easier way out, or I tell them, don't spend your money, this is what you can do. There are other attorneys like our firm out there, but they are also hard to find, so be very careful. But many give free consultations. My office gives free consultations. So why not pick up the phone and find out about options, okay? The one caveat, because of conflict of interest that I want to say, and part of me is saying don't say this, but as an attorney by the Florida bar, my obligation is to a client. So I just want to warn people, if it's family and friends, great, and if you care about your clients, great, but if you have a short sale person that you just got a listing for and they need advice and they call me, I have to put on my attorney hat. And if a lot of them don't realize that they can still save the home, and if they ask me that, I will tell them that if they can and how, and I can mess up your deal. I just want to be straight, just completely honest. I don't want to mess up anybody's deal.
Honest, guys, she's honest.
So, but if it's a specific question, you can certainly, I'm happy to speak to you as well. I have a lot of agents that will email me, and I will always get back to an email if it's a question. But obviously, we do free consultations. Lots of attorneys do. It hurts nothing to at least pick up the phone and get the homeowner the information that they need.
I want to put something out there too. This is back in 2008, 9, 10, okay? One thing that came up and a lot of my friends got screwed over was companies, okay? And some of them were even lawyers involved, claiming to be able to save your home and modify it, but you had to pay them a retainer every month. Elayne, do you remember those?
Yes.
And they were all fakes. And I have personal friends of mine lose their home because there was no modification being processed. Nothing. And how did they know? Because usually as the owner, you rely on this entity, this company who claimed to be an attorney in some cases, and others, they might have been and they were crooked. But I know a friend of mine who worked for one, and one day she walked into the office and it was shut down completely. So they were taking people's money and not doing anything. So when your clients are going through something, or you yourself is going through something, please make sure you're dealing with a reputable attorney. Don't just go for somebody who's giving you a great deal. And also, if you do hire someone, you can see on Clerk of Courts if they're processing anything. You can call your bank and let them know that if the attorney is communicating with them. But I have plenty of stories, plenty, more than I would like to have, where people were just being screwed over. So be very careful. If this come up early next year or mid next year, be very, very careful on what's out there. There's always scammers.
I have another quick question. I'm sorry because I'm not very experienced,
Uh-huh.
but I'm a little confused about short sale and foreclosure. So does the short sale happen before there's foreclosure, or that's something that happens together? Or when is it too late to do the short sale?
That's a good question.
So they typically in the real world, the short sale happens during the foreclosure process, but it absolutely doesn't have to. Once homeowners fall behind, they can have a short sale. If you read the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines, you are actually allowed, you can actually apply for a short sale if you're not behind. But in my experience, if you're not behind, they never approve it. Okay, I've been doing this since 2009, and I think I've heard of, and it wasn't even my case, one person that got approved for a short sale, and that's because they could prove they actually moved to a different state, and so they were going to fall behind. But typically, short sales, they're just not going to get approved if people are not behind, because why approve it? I'm getting, the bank's getting paid. Why agree to take less money? So it's going to be people that are behind. They don't have to be at the point of foreclosure. You can catch them at the beginning, right when they fall behind. And yes, they're eligible for a short sale at that point. It's just that, usually they're going to make it to foreclosure. So you're going to see the largest number of them in the foreclosure process. Don't let the foreclosure process intimidate you or stop you from taking a short sale, especially if there's no sale date. We can get them continued even if there is, but if they're just in the foreclosure process, there's so much that they can do. Through when foreclosures or short sales were really big, what we were doing, and we may turn to do that again, because we have the title company, we used to do a retainer with the client where we actually did some foreclosure defense just to hold that off while the realtor took their time to sell the home and get a good offer. And we would do that for free to get the short sale negotiation at the end, or we would work something out that, let me strike that. That's exactly how we used to do it. We used to do it as long as we were negotiating it, we would do some foreclosure defense for free. Now, if it's a case where it's a first mortgage and a small HOA, we will still do that. But if it's one of those cases that I showed you on my screen where there's 25 million liens, that's a very hard short sale, so we may not be willing to do it in that case. But everything, let us look at it, and if we can offer that to your client so that they can have some peace and you can have some peace while you're listing this property, that we're going to hold that foreclosure off, that we're happy to engage and do that.
Hey, Elayne, going back to Marisabel's question, I know based on my experience, the short sales that I've seen, yes, they're behind on payments, but two, they owe more than what the property is worth, correct? It has to be a combination of both, or?
I'm so sorry, yes, of course, right? Of course.
So if the seller's property is worth, $200,000 and they only owe $100,000 to the bank, that's not a short sale, even though they're behind on their payments. Or do we still do the short sale? What do you recommend? Because I've only seen it when it's worth less.
Right, so a short sale isn't a short sale unless the bank is going to be shorted, right? Unless the bank's not going to get what they need. So the first is just a distressed sale because they're in foreclosure, okay? The second is a short sale. A short sale is when there's just not enough in the property's value to pay off all of the liens. And also, a short sale may become a short sale not with the first mortgage lender, but with the second mortgage lender. They may have enough to pay the first and not the second, and the negotiation at that point actually becomes with the second. But also in regard to your homeowners who are behind or are in foreclosure, but they do have equity, sometimes they may want legal advice as well, or at least somebody in the case holding it off, because as attorneys, we do that it's so economical. Most attorneys, it's $300 to $500 per month to hold it off. And so for $300 a month, they have peace that you can take the time that you need to sell the home. When there is a distressed property, the vultures come out and they use the fear that, that the homeowner is going to lose the house to get the homeowner to take 20% less on their property, right? And that breaks my heart when I see it, because these homeowners are stressed out and they let these investors come and essentially steal their home. Just because you are behind on your mortgage and you're in foreclosure, that does not mean that the bank has any control over your sale. As long as they're getting paid off 100%, they don't control your sale. You control the sale. The homeowner controls the sale. And they should get a realtor who has the time and the peace to put it on the market and get highest dollar for it. Okay, the homeowner's going through enough, right? If they've fallen behind and they can't afford it, they need as much out of that property as they can possibly get. And for you to try to do a quick sale just because it's in foreclosure, sometimes is not in their best interest.
Oh, I have something else too. I know some of you might be maybe asking, or maybe later on you might think about it, going back to the listing of a short sale. So who pays for the commission? So the bank will be paying for the commission, even though the seller is the one signing the listing agreement. He's agreeing to sell, right? It is with that's why that addendum is so important, the short sale addendum, to be added to the listing agreement. So now the bank has to approve, number one, accepting what the property is worth. So that means if they owe more on the loan, they're accepting a lower payment, and then also covering the commission. But what does that mean with the commission? That's why there's a special verbiage on MLS, is because we don't know if they're going to approve X amount of commission, okay? So if they come up that they've met the net amount that they need to get for this property and the commission is too high, then they might just reduce that commission, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it is split equally between the cooperating broker and the listing broker, whatever that may be when the short sale is approved. So it is variable. At the moment, the listing agreement might say, you know, X%, but when it's approved on the short sale end of it, it might be a lower amount. So that's how commissions work, and the bank will pay for it. Now, something else I get too is with investment properties going through short sale or foreclosure. What happens to the tenant? Back in the day, Elayne might be able to explain this in the legal aspect of it, but back in the day, what they did was, it went into foreclosure, and then the tenants were being paid something to get out. Not in every case they will be evicted, but I think the lease is still in effect. I can't remember the details of it, but there were some cases that I do know personally where the tenants were being offered something to vacate from the bank once the bank foreclosed. That's one thing. I don't know if Elayne, you dealt with anything like that, where there was tenants in the property and it was in foreclosure?
Yes. So I haven't had the experience where in a short sale negotiation the tenants got money. But I'm very familiar with, there used to be a Foreclosure Tenant Protection Act that's no longer in effect, but it offered protection that if you were a tenant and you were in the home, depending on if it was Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or depending on the investor, you got protections. And if you were in an active lease, they had to allow you to stay there at least until the end of your lease. And so after the bank would foreclose, then they sometimes would offer the tenants something to get out of the house. I haven't had it that that tenants were given anything in the foreclosure process, unless it was maybe between the seller. But Mary raised something else that we did not touch on. In a lot of short sales, if it's a homestead, we can negotiate many times seller moving assistance. So in the short sale, we can even get the bank to pay the seller. $3,000 is the most common, but we've seen up to $6,000 or $10,000, but usually about $3,000 moving assistance that the seller gets paid at closing to help them move out of the property. And historically, we always request it if it's a owner occupied. It doesn't always get approved, but it gets approved a lot. And in regard to commissions, what we see typically is that the lender will pay 6% commission, but they don't want to pay broker fees in addition to the 6%. When I have seen it reduced, predominantly I've seen it reduced to maybe 5%. I personally haven't seen it reduced lower than that.
I've only seen it when the agent is representing both sides on the transaction.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Something else, and I know you gotta go, but this is so interesting. Arm's length transaction. Can you please explain it to them? Because this is common on short sales where the seller is selling on a short sale, and then they have Jimmy, the nephew, wanting to buy it.
Mhm.
Can you please
Okay, yes. So almost all of your short sale lenders will have paperwork that needs to be signed at closing, and many times the agents or the brokers have to sign it as well. The title company has to sign it, and everyone who's signing it is swearing under penalty of perjury that the transaction is arm's length, that this is not a case where the homeowner is selling it to their brother, their sister, their friend, their neighbor, so that they in fact can get the house back later. I get calls all the time as an attorney where people are in a home that the debt is more than it's worth, and they've tried everything to keep their home, but to get it for what it's worth. And if they do get in distress, they sometimes they can afford the home for what the actual value of the home is, but not the loan that's on there. And so everyone and their mother will come out of the woodwork that they will be trying to sell this home to. And if you're involved in that, there are penalties. The bank can come back. They can put a lien on the home in litigation. I've only seen that one time, so I don't really see it in practice. But me as an attorney and as a title agent, the roles that I have played is I'm not touching it. You know, if I'm in the middle of the transaction and I find out that's the cousin, I'm out of the deal. It's just not enough liability. It's just too much liability, rather. So you want to make sure that it's an actual party that's interested in the house that you found on the market. Another thing with short sales, a lot of people, clients of mine, they try to do it for sale by owner. It's never going to happen. Most of the lenders have rules that it has to be listed on the MLS. It has to be listed on the MLS. And even if you have a buyer that you know is going to offer a good price, you want to keep it listed. The minimum is 10 days. If the lender sees that house was listed and you got an offer in 2 days, they believe that that house is worth more, and you're going to really mess up your short sale. So it has to be listed on the MLS, and really don't take any offers till a minimum of 10 days.
Beautiful. One more thing is, I had some cases, in this is brokerage wise, where the seller on a short sale wanted to stay in the property after closing for 2 days, for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because until they found a place to go because they didn't have anything. I saw just in a few deals that was done. It had to be approved by the third party, and it had to be on the approval notice that they gave, that they did allow the seller to stay after closing for the 3 weeks, for example. You cannot do it outside of that because it has to be disclosed that the seller needs more time to move and stating how much it is. And again, we're gonna look for that, because once we see it's a short sale, we're gonna request from your file a copy of the short sale approval. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, before Elayne touched something on MLS. Yes, all listings that are short sales must be on MLS. The bank will require it because they want to know that it's being marketed. But remember how that they will not allow you to charge anything to the buyer or to the seller. That's where MLS fee came out of, because short sales, I'm not going to fool you guys, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And when you put it on MLS, when you offer the compensation to the cooperating broker, on there you'll see an MLS fee like $295 or $350 or whatever it is. That is broker to broker. That means from the commission you're offering the cooperating broker, you're going to reduce that fee from their commission. That's legal to do as long as it's disclosed on MLS. But many agents started doing that because that's a way of them getting a little extra money so that they can cover all the legwork they had to do on the short sale side of it. So that's an option, okay? Everybody good? Elayne, thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, please let us know. Oh, Mirtha asked, who pays the lawyer on the short sale?
Okay, I'm going to answer that, and also I see a question, so let me answer both of them.
Okay.
When you say the lawyer, are you talking about a short sale negotiator or a lawyer? If it's the lawyer to defend, it's typically the seller's going to have to pay that, unless it's a deal like some lawyers have with title companies. Like we have our title company, so if we're going to be the short sale negotiator, we're going to make money doing that. So we'll do actually some foreclosure defense for free. But if it's paying a lawyer to do defense work in the foreclosure, that is going to be the seller. And a lot of times if they're losing their home, they don't want to pay that. In regard to the short sale negotiator, that negotiation fee is typically negotiated with the lender, and so the lender actually pays that as well. There are some lenders that have made it more difficult, and they're refusing to pay much to short sale negotiators, or they have to combine it with the settlement fee, and they only give a certain amount, so there's really not enough to adequately pay a short sale negotiator. So in those cases, sometimes if it's that type of a lender, and we know who the lender is because we know who the seller's loan is with. For those lenders, sometimes we put in the contract that the buyer has to agree to pay up to X amount if the lender won't pay it. And in that case, what I've seen is that if the buyer was going to pay $250, maybe the buyer is going to offer $243.5, so that there's money in there to pay the short sale negotiator if the lender doesn't. But if the lender does, they actually got the house for a little bit less. And then there was a question, is there a place where you can find distressed properties that are not behind in payments, that are behind in payments but not in foreclosure yet? And if I could, I would be marketing to them. But you know, back in the day, we used to be able to do things via credit reports, but for privacy reasons, that changed. What, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I will tell you that there's some unscrupulous companies out there that will still do credit report lists and let you know when people are behind on credit cards or things like that. I won't use them as an attorney because of the restrictions, and it's just not worth it. But I do know that there are people that will utilize those lists. There are companies that will sell you distressed homeowner lists, and they're actually getting information from the credit reports. I don't know how they're getting it, but that's how you can get there first, kind of a thing. Not that I am prescribing that, because that's not right.
Oh, Martha asked who pay. Okay, she says short sale negotiator are okay to work with, or is it better a lawyer?
Well, the lawyer can do stuff that the short sale negotiator can't do. The lawyer on the file can do stuff in court to get that case pushed. I know that if I'm personally involved as the short sale negotiator and a new sale is reset, I'm involved. I'm involved in the deal. I'm not going to get paid if it doesn't close. So I'm going to make sure that we go to court and we get that short sale date pushed. You don't have to scramble at the last minute to find a lawyer for the homeowner to pay who doesn't have a stake in the deal, right? Who's just like, sure, you want me to go to court and make this argument for $800? I'll do it, and they don't care. So in my opinion, and it's not to push go with a lawyer, in my opinion, it just makes more sense to go with a lawyer, because for the same money, you're actually going to get legal services.
Well, from my experience, I gotta agree with you, Elayne. And another thing is too, a lawyer has the ability that if they can push back a foreclosure, right, or prevent it, you have a better background and experience on that than will be a short sale negotiator. So I will say if it's already in short sale, there's no way of turning back. Obviously, if you have a short sale negotiator, but I go with the lawyer, my experience. Okay, so let me see, understand, thank you. Well, Elayne, thank you. You know that I love you. Jeremy, thank you for your IT, for fixing it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And guys, if you don't have any other question, I know Elayne has to go, but we just want to say thank you so much. And if you need another class, please email me, let me know, and I will put that together with Elayne. So
I do have a question. I don't know if it's too late.
Oh, hi, Kathy. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Awesome. So what's your question?
Yes, I wanted to switch the conversation a little bit to the side where I have a buyer who wants to buy a foreclosed home. What does that look like?
Well, they're dealing with the bank, obviously.
Right.
That, they're dealing with the bank. So, Elayne, do you have some input on that? Because I can give you from the broker perspective, but.
I just was going to clarify because you used the word foreclosed. So that's what I went and I kind of followed what Mary understood on that as well, that you're talking about something that's already been foreclosed on, and those are REOs. And those are sold on the regular market. So I'm not, you guys would know better than me whether you even get real deals with that. But if you're talking about a buyer who wants to buy distressed properties that are in foreclosure, that is a very, very competitive market, I would say, and they need to be very careful, because if they do not know what they're doing, they buy properties with liens on them. I've had so many phone calls with, I bought my property at foreclosure sale and now I'm getting sued. What is that about? And they bought it from an HOA foreclosure, which does not extinguish the mortgage, or a second mortgage foreclosure, a second mortgage foreclosure, and that doesn't extinguish the first mortgage. So is there deals to be made? There's not as much sweet money there as there was back in 2008. But if you want to if you're dealing with an investor who wants to do that, I would kind of encourage them to join an investor group, because there's a lot that need to learn before you want to start buying distressed properties. There's a lot of competition and you need to know what you're buying.
That's a good input. Also, if any of you want to go, there's a website called HUD Home Stores. We have the registration information on our website. If you go to empirenetworkrealty.com, click agent support, then go into forms, and there's going to be the HUD Home Stores registration information. So on there, you can search for properties, but you have to register first. So going on something I want to, Elayne touched, was on prices. Guys, when there's a short sale or a foreclosed home, typically I remember prior to 2013, people were offering like $50,000 below the asking price, $100,000 below the asking price. And believe it or not, some of these were being accepted. After, I think it was November 2013, that was changed, because it was affecting the property appraisers' estimates. Some homeowners who were not in short sale, were not in hardship, were being affected, because if the bank was selling these properties so cheap, it was also affecting taxes. And I believe, I could be wrong, Elayne, the law is different, but this was the rumor on the street, was that changed because it was affecting property taxes. So after November 2013, the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae were like, no, we're only going to be accepting the value of the property moving forward. And that helps actually move the economy, I think, in my opinion, because now they were actually selling it for the value of the property, and that kind of helped the market kind of go up. So if you have investors, if this thing comes up on the rise and they're thinking they can get these properties for basically no money, I don't know if that's going to come back, but I don't think so.
I agree. I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. So, Cabby, did we answer your question? Are you good?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, guys, if there's no more, I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank Elayne and Jeremy, and let us know any other topic, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great day. Bye.